Hey climbers, Brent here. Are you ready to write your best songs ever? Are you ready to take that next step in your songwriting journey? Well, I want to help you with that. Listening to the C.L.I.M.B podcast is a great way to get started on your songwriting journey and to learn the basics about the art, the craft, and the business of songwriting. But eventually, you're probably going to need the personal touch. You're probably going to need some one-on-one feedback, some advice, and some help reaching your songwriting goals. And that's what I want to help do for you. I want to help you write your best songs ever. And I want to help you learn the art, the craft, and the business of songwriting, of how to turn pro in your mind and in your behavior before you ever turn pro on paper. Before you ever have the awards to hang on the wall, I want to give you the mindsets and the skills to earn that stuff. And so we'll dive into your questions and I'll give you honest answers. And I can help repair your song if it's already written but has a couple bugs and has some opportunities to get better. Or we can help prepare your song if you have an idea, a notion, a title. We can do your own private song title challenge if you want. If you want to get ready for a co-write, if you have a meeting coming up and you want to get your stuff locked down where it's the best it can be, I'm happy to help you do that as well. You can see my calendar, get all the details, and actually book a session at songwritingpro.com/coaching. That is songwritingpro.com/coaching. Now, if you're still not sure if a coaching session with me is the right thing for you, let's listen to what this climber had to say about their session.
Having been around musicians and songwriters a lot of my life, I always wondered why some made it and others didn't. And it never really made sense. Like there was a glass ceiling or magic formula, or you had to live in Nashville to even have a shot. But after coaching with Brent Baxter, I've come to understand that it's just like anything else in life worth having. It takes an education, knowing people, practice, and then more education and relationships. I didn't really have a clue how much knowledge and intention that it took until I was in the room with him, a man that made his living and fed his family with the knowledge that he has. There's a lot of naturally talented songwriters out there, but at some point, even the greats have to learn new skills and new ropes to stay relevant. I've had so many roadblocks and awe moments released from Brent that I've lost count. His simple observations have solved many of my complex problems, and he's made suggestions that have changed my entire direction on certain songs and pulled me up higher. Sometimes I cringe at the money I've spent on demos. If I had half the money I had spent on demos and put it toward my education, I'd have a lot less worthless demos. He's explained things to me in 5 minutes that really could have made all the difference that entire time.
Song Title Challenge.
All right, welcome to another mini-sode of Song Title Challenge, where the question is, climbers, how would you write this one? And as you get into this mini-sode, if you have some ideas, please email us. Put it up on the C.L.I.M.B community. Put it up on your socials. Let us know and tag the C.L.I.M B show. This is where we get song titles from climbers, listeners of this podcast. They send them into info@daredevilproduction.com. Once again, info@daredevilproduction.com. Production is singular. Put song title challenge into the subject line so it gets into the right folder. I spring them live on the air to Brent here, and we both get in and try to mimic what would happen in the first 15 minutes of a pro write where you've got a great title, hopefully. And what we're going to do is try to cook up 5 or 6 different conceptual angles to write the lyrics. Like, are we sure we got the right angle before we start writing the lyrics? How can we twist up the meaning
That's right.
of this title? And it's not a co-write in any way, shape, or form. You can use all of what we say on the podcast, none of what we say. It's just a fun, creative exercise. There is one requirement that we must be invited to the number one party after you get done writing it, right?
That's right.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, a title is not an idea. A title is just words. It's what you make those words mean that becomes your idea. And so we're going to play with how many ideas we can get out of these titles. And yeah, it's not a co-write. It's for education, information, inspiration, and hopefully entertainment value as well, what we're doing here. So hope it serves you well. But man, let's do it.
All right, so this is from Jack Lucas.
Hey, Jack.
And the song is called Neverland.
Neverland. Okay.
Neverland.
I think that's Jackson, who was hanging out in a jam session last night, if that's the same Jackson. So member of the Songwriting Pro community, so hello again. And over on the East Coast, if that's you, thanks for sending this in. All right, so Neverland. Man, I tell you, I'm a country hammer, so most things kind of look like country nails to me, and that's kind of usually where I start off, is going, okay, how could this be a country thing? And the first thing I think of is that Kelsey Ballerini song, Peter Pan. You know, her biggest hit probably so far, because that talks about, you know, Neverland, this guy that she's in a relationship with that just never grows up. You know, he's Peter Pan, and it talks about Neverland in there. So if we were coming up in a co-ride, I'd be like, boy, you know, for a country thing, oh man, that Kelsey Ballerini thing, that could be tough right now because that's so identified with her, the whole Peter Pan thing.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
So remember Maddie and Tay did that song that actually was a hit, that was a response to...
Yeah, Girl in a Country Song.
Yeah, Girl in a Country Song, like to all the male written songs with their pink little toes up on the dashboard and all that. It was an answer to that. And it actually got him a lot of attention for that song. It was a great song, too.
Yeah, it did. It tapped into what a lot of people kind of felt from bro country, the backlash to bro country. So, yeah, that can happen. And the smart thing about that, it wasn't a response to one particular song. It was to a trend that had been going for a while and building up. And, you know, it was an honest response to that kind of thing. So I dug it, too. I guess what you're thinking is like, hey, could this be like the response from Peter Pan?
Yeah,
right?
Can you twist up Neverland in some way and be like, you know what, I'm going to make your life feel like Neverland, but I'm the guy, I'm the man, I'm a real man, I'm the man for you, kind of a thing. And maybe you just kind of reference it or something. Kelsey thought Neverland was a bad thing, but it can be a good thing too, right? And you give that sort of different take on it. It's borderline cheese if you're not careful.
It's tough just because every day that song gets older, that song's a little more out of consciousness, and that's a very specific kind of thing to hit, you know. With a title like Neverland, I don't know how you can get away with from Peter Pan stuff. Some of it may be like, okay, well, let's go to a different genre. Maybe for a pop thing, you could almost have your version of Peter Pan going, you know, you think you never land. Or maybe it's like, hey, I feel like we're at Neverland. I feel like I'm up so high I'm never going to land, right?
Yeah, so it feels like it might be something repetitive, but you could make it totally different.
It could be the positive. Yeah, I'm never going to land. Like, I'm up so high, I'm never going to land. And this is a positive love thing. So it may be a while before you could really do something like that in country just because of the Kelsey thing. It feel derivative. But in another genre, it may be open to that. It could also be, and I may have heard this done before in a song, but I can't remember. It's kind of tickling the back of my brain about here, Neverland. Never going to see you again, never going to hold you again, you know, and Neverland, instead of becoming this magical place.
It's the pay no mind list. Yeah.
It's in the land of stuff I can never do again or never going to happen. I'm here, Neverland.
Right.
The land of never. That could be kind of thing. And so, because it's in the public consciousness, you may get a certain amount of that for free, and so therefore you may not have to reference it, the Peter Pan stuff, but just go, our love was a fairy tale, and now I'm Neverland. But I can never kiss you, never hold you, never touch you. You said never, you know.
There's a lot of different roads to go down that way, but I think you absolutely don't reference anything about Peter Pan, and you could do it in country.
Yeah, I think that would help.
Let them turn their nose up about it at the publishing company because they think, oh, this is going to be derivative of a Kelsey thing. And then they listen to it and they're like, oh, yeah, because you're setting them up with the name that feels derivative and you go a total another way with it. And they're like, wow, yeah.
And like I said, I may have heard that treatment somewhere before on a song somewhere, but it hadn't been a hit that I can think of. How could this work in like in a different genre?
I got an idea.
Yeah.
I feel like this could be country too, but this could be a really cool title for a road song, man. You know, like Wanted Dead or Alive. It's just all about being on the road. Like, it feels like we never land.
Yeah.
We're always going one place to another, the gypsy life of being on the road. And you go down that road of all these great people that you meet and how much you love it, but you can also bring in a little bit of, man, but I miss my family. I miss, you know, I miss my friends. And you know what I mean? Like, you could really go down and it just, everybody thinks that this life, you get up so high, but sometimes it feels like you just never land.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'm proud of myself for that.
The Lost Boys, and they never grew up, you know. That's a band.
that's the band life, a bunch of lost boys that never land. And so you could play off that, maybe not say like the Peter Pan thing, but that could be a combination of Diamond Rio's Mama, Don't Forget to Pray for Me. Diamond Rio, the lead singer, Marty, he's on the phone with Mama, checking with her and Dad. If you put the garden out, all this stuff. And it's like, my new job, it's going great. They say I'm headed for the top. I should be happy, but somehow I'm not. Sometimes it feels like the devil's got a hold of me or something. Oh, Mama, don't forget to pray for me. Whatever,
Yeah.
And it's almost like a little lamenting, like, yeah, things are taking off, but something doesn't feel right. So it could be that, we're on the road and they know you get high, but they don't know what it's like to never land.
Yeah.
That could be a cool thing, too. And
that could be it right there. Like, everybody focuses on
the high.
The fact that you get so high, but they don't ever tell you that you never land.
Yeah. Like, have a home, have roots to go down, and that kind of stuff. So you could play off that, and that'd be cool, because then you got the flying thing built in there. You also think of Metallica, we're off to Neverland. Ha! Enter Sandman, which is a whole different vibe on that. But so I think that could be cool. Could you do pop female, but it's a positive Peter Pan? You make me feel young forever, feel like we're never going to land. That just kind of jubilant love song that just feels like a fairy tale, never going to land kind of thing. Let's see. Could you do a Christian song that's like how we did the Neverland of the nevers and the negative nevers, right? Mm-hmm. What if you consider like Heaven is Neverland? Have a song about heaven called Neverland. But it's like never cry, never hurt, never die, never get old.
Yeah.
All this stuff that heaven's full of nevers. And so that could be a cool, maybe more of a CCM thing than like a Southern thing, just because of the language you could use and kind of artsy. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a CCM thing. But I think that could be cool. You think about a contemporary Christian song called Neverland, and you're like, well, that's fairy tale, not real stuff. But you're like, man, it's longing for Neverland. That could be a cool kind of thing.
Of course, I love that concept, but is there going to be any backlash from the Front Row Baptists because it's just happens to be
because it's pulling from
Michael Jackson's place?
Oh, Neverland Ranch? Oh, I didn't think about that till you said it. Man, that's been a minute, so.
But you don't think about that stuff, and I don't think about that stuff. But I remember one other time you said that you had something that, of course, it came from you. It's about as pure and sweet as it can be, and then somebody's like, we can't say that.
Yeah,
and that was they're gonna be pissed.
Yeah, that was more the Southern world, which is a little bit more the blue hair, like a CCM thing, which trends younger, more pop. You can get more artistic and that kind of stuff. First thing most people think of is Peter Pan.
Yeah,
Neverland. That's vast majority of people, because every day Michael Jackson is getting more in the past. So I wouldn't worry about that, but that's something to consider.
Yeah, just curious. It just kind of struck me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't even thought about Neverland Ranch. So I think that could be like a cool CCM thing that it's like, never get old, never cry, never die, never get sick, never, I can't wait for Neverland. Just like another way of saying heaven.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that could be pretty cool. Like maybe set it up a little bit like you might think it's a fairy tale, but man, I can't wait for Neverland. But I'm talking about heaven and the Lost Boys, they never age. Peter Pan never got old. And same thing about heaven.
Yeah.
So I think that could be pretty neat of a way of subverting expectations, I guess.
I like that.
What else? So if we come back into the country world, the big elephant in the room is the Kelsey things. That scares me. If it were just brought up in the room, I'd be like, I don't know if we can get away with that. But you put it in a different setting, like a CCM thing. You're like, okay, different genre, totally different meaning. It may be new and fresh and compelling there.
But Kelsey's thing, I got to advocate for this now for country.
Yeah.
Kelsey's thing was called Peter Pan.
Yes.
Now, it's associated with, but it wasn't called Neverland.
True.
It was called Peter Pan. Now, she mentioned it in there, but...
In the chorus, I believe, yeah.
If you're going to craft it in country, I would say that the rule would probably be you can't make any references to Peter Pan. It has to be this killer concept that's a big, great song that... It is devoid of one single little reference to Peter Pan. For instance, like the road thing, we get as high as we can, but we never get to land. You never land.
Yeah.
You never get to come down. It's always like you're on the road all the time or whatever. So I think if you went down a road like that or some of the other things that you mentioned that just had nothing to do, that highfalutin love song can be great, but it can just be about we're never going to land. Like, Carpenters, a kiss for luck and we're on our way. And it's just about that, and we never want to land. I don't ever want to come down.
Yeah.
I think if you just purposely avoid every reference, then nobody can say,
well, that's just a derivative.
Yeah,
because there's a certain amount of that baked in. Because I think like the road thing, you might be able to play with a little bit of a Lost Boys not growing up. So maybe I'm completely wrong. And if you do the other angle of maybe it's that Neverland thing, we're talking about never do this, never do that, never do whatever. And maybe you could, I don't want to say she called me Peter Pan, but like she thought I wouldn't grow up or I'm just a lost boy, like here in Neverland. You'd have to be careful how far you can push that, at least for a while, another 5 years and maybe completely great. But I think that's an interesting concept too. It's like, if you're the guy from Peter Pan and you lost the girl and now here you are a lost boy in Neverland about all these nevers you never do again. I'd be all over that if that song just hadn't been a hit, a few years ago.
What if you just embrace it? Like, what if you back up what Kelsey said? And so it's just a party song about you and your boys. And we're like, that's right. We're never going to grow up, never going to get old. We're going to light this fire and drink all night, never going to land. Just make it a party song.
And just own it.
And just own it, yeah. I just feel like this is what we're, me and my boys, man. I think that would have a lot of appeal. Bangarang could be the hook, Bangarang, and it's just big country like Jason Aldean kind of a thing where it's just a party song. But Bangarang's such a good hook, that everybody knows.
Is that from Peter Pan?
That's from Peter Pan. That's what they shouted like right before they went to go deal with Captain Hook. It was like Bangarang.
That's funny.
And you could make that like a big shout vocal thing.
And maybe not even like, hey, she called us Peter Pan, but just be like, yeah, we're lost boys. We never growing up. Bangarang. Welcome to Neverland.
It's a youth anthem. It's all about being in your teens and in your early 20s. You got no responsibility. You're just driving around, going to bonfires, getting lit, and having a good time. And we're never going to grow up, never going to grow old. I mean, I hope I die before I get old kind of a thing, like The Who said, that kind of a thing.
Oh, well, and that makes me think, too, that sounds almost like that theme could be like a punk anthem, could be a rock thing, could be a punk pop.
Sure could.
Hey, let's call it Jacob Cade. Hey, Jacob, got an idea. There are other ways you could do that where the Kelsey thing is completely off the table because they don't listen to Kelsey Ballerini. They got their own thing cooking. And it's a different concept anyway. I mean, so it's not stepping on those toes anyway, but there wouldn't be any sort of that comparison and owning it. I like the bravado of that. It's a bold choice. But for the people that get it and love it, they're going to love it.
You could rock that in every other genre but country, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not CCM probably, but like with that angle. But I mean, like that could be a killer rap song, like a killer concept for like a rap thing, like a big old rap hook. But the same thing, it's just all about your boys, and this is what we do. This is how we roll. This is how we do, Just a total youth anthem party thing, and it could work really well.
There we go.
I think we got a lot of good looks at that.
I think so. So hopefully, Jack, we did something helpful here. So be sure to invite us out to the number one party.
If he wants to work on this with you privately, what can he do?
Yeah, so I do private songwriter coaching and consulting. You can see the details. You can look at my calendar. You can book yourself a session at songwritingpro.com/coaching. And I do private song title challenges with folks. They'll throw a title at me and we'll riff on it like Johnny and I have been. They can bring in songs that are already finished and I can help, evaluate them, find opportunities to strengthen them. So basically I can help you prepare your song or I can help you repair your song. It's also a time for Q&A about the art, the craft, the business of songwriting. I've been in the game a while, so you have questions about any of that stuff. It's basically my time to be of service to you. So again, you can get more details. You can see my calendar and book a session at songwritingpro.com/coaching. And I'd love to hang out.
There you go, guys. That brings us to the end of another killer song title challenge. Please send in your titles, as many as you want, to info@daredevilproduction.com. Production is singular. info@daredevilproduction.com, and put song title challenge in the subject line so it gets into the right folder. Because I just throw them in there. I don't even look at them until it's time to do these, and then they're fresh to me too. And at least I participate as close to your level, as far as how much knowledge I have of it. You know what I mean? I don't look at it in advance. So
keeps it fresh.
Yeah, so do that, guys, and subscribe to the podcast, join the Climb community. This podcast exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top. Bangarang.